Marjot and I having another night's sleep. Feeling pretty good. Nothing major to complain about, other than the mess and the people we'd sent on their way that we felt a little bit bad for. We had some fun that night. About 1 in the morning, and after that Marjot got up, said she couldn't sleep. Got to the business of smelting up some steel. When I got up, had myself a meal. It's time to get some rice planted. I didn't want to run out. Marjot was visiting one of the graves. Poor cats that had died. I got the rice planted. Started working on some flat gear. Still had to figure out if I could learn enough about this stuff to make some bionics. Even though Marjot knows what to do and can tell me, I don't have the skill yet. I chilled out in the kitchen, then did a little cleaning, and got back to making flak armor. Marjot worked with the animals. She was in bed early that night, about 5 o'clock. She'd gotten up so early, still felt pretty tired. It was going to be a little while before I could be confident enough to make those bionics. But in the meantime, we'd have a lot of good gear. So I stayed focused on the flat gear as best I could. Got some stuff hauled around. There were meals that needed to be put away, but there was really nowhere to put them. Storage room was right full. I went to bed about 10 o'clock. Marjot got up, worked with the animals for a while. She got a message that somebody was chasing after him. They wanted help. She decided to pass on that. Whatever that person did, they must deserve it, apparently. Marjot's got a harder heart than me. She went to bed early in the morning, right about the time I got up. And I carried wood around. We decided to make a little expansion to the kitchen area, hanging out area. We were going to want a way to contact traders. We had the technology. Some visitors passed by at that time. Looked like they had something to trade. But we were going to make trade beacons, communicators. Marjot over there using the telescope while I was working away, making flak armor. Yeah, we did some trading. We had some drugs around we weren't going to use. Bought some medicine and some components. Can never have enough of those things. There was a ton of slag laying about yet, and Marjot was working on it. We were trying to tidy things up. Those graves weren't necessarily in the best spot. It occurred to me as I was tossing horseshoes. Not for the minute. That's where they're going to have to stay. Visitors took off, and we were still working on our room expansion. There were floors to do. Move some shelves around. Decided we'd build another light as well. Maybe we'd make a fancier table at some point. We'd had this one for a while. It certainly wasn't anything impressive. So I worked on the floors. Marjot worked with the animals until bedtime. And we were both feeling pretty good. About that time, a psychic drone started. Marjot complaining about this buzzing in her head. I told her she's going to have to deal for now. Try to keep it cool. But overall, she seemed happy despite the issues. So we finished up the floors. Planned the communicator. We were going to need more blocks. We were going to have to redo our storage unit at some point here. All these rooms are made out of wood. If something went bad when I was on the road, Marjot wouldn't be able to deal with the fire. And some fella named McMahon came crashing down out of the sky. So we decided to rescue him. Well, he wasn't very close at all, that's for sure. Another space refugee. Probably fleeing them darn aliens. Have to have a talk with him, see if we can gain any more information about those things. If there's anything else we can do. I chilled out. Sat in the kitchen, just enjoying the peace and quiet. Marjot was hauling that fella inside. I had myself a meal. Went and fed a meal to the muffalo that was down and out as well. Marjot decided to toss horseshoes after getting that fella tended up. We didn't have any medicine for him, but he should be alright. He was bleeding like a stuck pig. Turns out she had to finish the job of tending him, not the bleeding. And I built a comms console and got back to the business, making some flak gear before bedtime. Marjot joined me right away, and we had a little bit of fun that night, despite crazy buzzing she was hearing. One of our muffalo had the flu. That didn't really trouble us too much. Sometime in the night, Marjot said that buzzing went away in her head, and she got happy. Some dogs showed up. 3 huskies. They seemed friendly enough. I wasn't sure what we were going to feed them. We'd have to do something bad at some point to them. Hopefully not. But for now, they could hang out, do what dogs do, I guess. I was always more of a cat person myself. It seems to me pets are just a bad idea here. And I got back to making flak gear. McMahon was in bed, but he was healing up fast. I was doing some cloud watching. Decided to do some cleaning when I was done with that. Marjot was running around with that timber wolf trying to get it trained up. And I did the cleaning. Had myself a meal. We were short on meat. Shorter than we'd been in a while. I was going to have to do something about that. We both hit the hay about 11 o'clock once again. Both feeling alright. McMahon was doing alright too. He liked the room he was in. He was in a bit of pain, but that was it. We got contacted. Somebody was being held prisoner nearby, but we chose to ignore that. Claimed he was a part of our group at one point, but I don't think that's the case. A bunch of those aliens showed up that morning, and we got a little freaked out. Turns out they keep showing up in bigger and bigger groups. So we got to the business trying to get them shot up. There was a mess of them, I will say that. We were trying to take them down before they could destroy all of our traps. But we didn't really have any luck at that. Marjot trained up that wolf. I'll follow her around well enough, so that was pretty interesting. We shot those aliens, they went down on the traps, and they consistently get up. There was alien blood everywhere. Acidic as it gets, just waiting to burn us up. We were going to have to finish some of these off the old-fashioned way with the rifle. Not with the slit throat, since you can't really get close to them. So I went to do that. And got the job done. And inadvertently stepped on some blood, splattered up and hit me in the hand though, which is most disappointing. Now I had acid burns. And we had stuff laying around. I was going to go chill out and see if I could get Marjot to come tend to me, but she was busy. I decided to go to bed, see if I could heal up. Despite the mess, we were very short on steel as well, and something was going to have to be done about that. Despite constant smelting, we couldn't keep up the rebuilding of the traps, although we did build ourselves a comms console. So there's that. We were going to need a bunch of material if I was going to figure out these bionics. That's for certain. So we both hauled those alien bodies out, and then got to the business of rebuilding what traps we could. Marjot tried to work with the animals, keep them as tame as possible, and she smelted. I built traps and chilled out. Slowly but surely we'd get that steel back together, and hopefully it was enough in time. We were off to bed by 11 that night. Once again feeling pretty good. Despite the disaster, neither of us had been seriously injured this time, so that was great. And traps needed rebuilding. I might have to go and do a bunch of mining at some point here. Seemed like a better way to acquire a fair amount of steel. Marjot worked with the animals, and we both did some repairs to the walls before she got back to smelting. So she was smelting up steel. I was building traps out of it. One of our dogs stepped on some acid blood. Got itself burnt up pretty badly. Seemed like dogs have a knack for that. I had to get off the bed. Marjot came and tended me because I too had stepped on the acid blood that had got the dog. The stuff just ends up everywhere, I swear. Marjot tended us both up. She chilled out. McMahon was fully healed at that time. He got up, wandered around a bit. All the animals were swarming around when I was trying to toss horseshoes. It was getting too dark anyway, so I guess it wasn't a big deal. And we did some repairs. Marjot smelted a bit. It's time I got to deal with the rice. McMahon had taken off at some point. Decided he didn't want anything to do with these aliens. And we couldn't blame him. Neither did we, but we were stuck for a while. When I got up, it was time to cook some more. We could use some fine meals around here. Sure do seem to keep us happier. So that's what I focused on. And Marjot focused on the animals and the smelting. And that's how the day was passing. When we had enough steel together, Marjot went and built some traps. I got back to harvesting up some rice. And then I chilled out for a bit while Marjot smelted. The kitchen was a dirty mess, as was the workroom. So I spent some time tidying up before getting back to the rice. And Marjot kept breaking down steel slag into usable steel. A trade ship was passing by at that point. Some kind of merchant, bad blood, whatever that's worth, I have no idea. Hopefully we don't have bad blood with them. When I got up, I ran over there. We had some stuff. I sold them my original heart, which is interesting. And then we had some worn out gear, some drugs, some materials we weren't going to use. Made a little bit of money. I was going to start hoarding up some money at some point. See if I could buy myself some more bionics. We also decided we were going to put one of them trade beacons in both of our storerooms, which we were also going to rebuild before too long here. Once we got the block together, we'd hauled a bunch of stone chunks in. Our dogs are starving, and that was problematic. Since we didn't have a lot of meat around to feed ourselves, we weren't too crazy on feeding these random dogs that showed up. And neither of us had grown really attached to them at this point, although we were taking care of them for whatever that's worth. Some ship chunks fell nearby. That was a good thing. More components and more steel. Never a problem. One of our muffalos recovered from the flu, stepped on some acid blood and got itself burned. I was chilling out, doing some cloud watching outside before planting the rice again. Seemed like that crop didn't make as much as it had in the past. Our cotton's getting relatively close as well, though. Marjot was cleaning blood. I was off to bed. And she joined me before too long. Place was a little bit of a mess, but otherwise we didn't have much to complain about. I finished planting the rice at about 3 a.m. Then I had myself a meal. Time to do a little bit of the usual cleaning as well, before getting back to making flat gear. I was figuring stuff out, but it was a slow process. However, I was confident I'd get there. Marjot had broken a bunch of those blocks down into, or chunks down into usable blocks. So we were getting a fair amount of those going. Marjot decided to chill out in the kitchen, have a good time while I was cooking. So we chatted for a bit. Just enjoyed the morning, which is a rare day. We needed more steel, so we decided to run around and pick up steel slag chunks that were laying about. certainly were enough of them. Sadly, we had to run all over the place for them. Took forever. And we didn't have a lot of space to put them. I was visiting one of those cats' graves. Carrying some steel, decided to drop it right there since we were about out of places to put it. Marjot was a little disappointed not to have gotten to use her power claw yet. The fact of the matter is, though, those aliens looked like they'd rip her apart, whether she had that thing or not. She kept on smelting, and about midnight, 1 o'clock, we were both off to bed. Still feeling pretty good without a lot to complain about. I got up at 4 a.m., cleaned, decided to get to the business of doing some mining. Marjot did some cleaning, then she decided to go pray for a little while, try and clear her mind. The chaos that's been going on around here. We needed to get those traps rebuilt. Mining seemed like a better go, trying to use slag. Plus there were tons of steel deposits around. So for now we do both. And we replanned our storage room. I worked on making flat gear. Marjot worked on our new walls until I decided to join her. We made stone doors. Some trader showed up about that time, or some person with a few things. Fair amount of people. We decided to be friendly, see if they had anything we wanted to trade for. In the end, I decided to sell that marine armor I had. At some point, I'd just make better stuff. We'd get fully kitted out. That'd be pretty amazing. We gave them a bit of a bonus on us, made some silver, and everybody was happy with the trade. We were still building walls, trying to put stuff away, and eventually got it done. We had to deconstruct the old wooden walls. Then there was the question of what to do with these power conduits that were running through there, since that's the general source of the fire. We couldn't have all of our stuff burning up. Marjot came to bed about midnight, and we had a little fun together that night. Both planning on doing some cleaning in the morning. The dogs were still around, though they'd periodically fall down out of hunger and we'd have to manually feed them. There was another group of people nearby with stuff to trade. Though once again I decided to run out and have a chat with them. And we had some random clothing to get rid of. Nothing too major though. Some poor pants. We bought some medicine and some components like usual. At some point we're going to need tons of those things, so I think it makes sense. And our new storeroom was done. There were some wooden walls in there, built into the mountain. There wasn't any power near those though. So for the minute, we were going to let it go. And when I decided to go out on caravan again, we had to do something about it. Marjot slagged metal. I made flat gear. Till a bunch more of those critters showed up. Seems like every time we get the traps built, a bunch of those bastards show up trying to kill us. So, we whistled all the animals inside, grabbed our guns, went back for another round. Never-ending attacks from these jerks. And the fast ones don't seem to be as strong as the bigger ones. We were shooting them up, trying to bring them down. They were taking out our traps. Once in a while they stop and spit acid blood on you, those sons of bitches. We had to run like heck. Fortunately, down that narrow corridor they couldn't aim too well. And they were all down before too long. One of them popped back up and scared the shit out of us. I was standing in acid blood just getting burnt up, which was no fun. I had to go get myself tended, or at least get somebody to do it. Decided to do some cleaning first, so I could walk over here when I got back. While cleaning though, standing in a big puddle of blood. Got burnt even worse. Some of those critters weren't dead, and man, they were scary. We didn't know what to do. One of them jumped back up, came at Marjot. She boogied out of there with her gun, and then it went and got itself killed on a trap. What a nightmare. We were thinking of ways we could expand our security structure here. It certainly wasn't ideal, the way these things can almost get through to us. So we were planning ways perhaps make this a little more impregnable. We had steel stuck in the doorway. Another one of those aliens popped up and then went down on our trap. Man, I tell you, these things are real sons of bitches. So we had a mess to clean up once again. But all the aliens seemed to have died. Marjot started rebuilding traps. We had bodies to pick up, blood to clean. Could barely even walk through here without getting yourself burnt up. And we were running out of room to put the bodies for what that was worth. It's about time we were going to have to start another fire. And about that time, a couple more of them showed up. We were working on building traps, decided just to give up, see if we could do the business with the guns. And we took the fast one down. The second one, damn near getting to us. But unfortunately, we had enough guns set up by the door to do the damage to it. And then we walked on over, see if we could give it the business. Damn thing. The blood really does some damage to our walls too, I'll tell you that. Some more ship chunks fell nearby, so we're going to make it a point to get those things taken care of. And I had to go shoot the other alien that was still alive, lest it wake up. I was building a trap, standing in some acid blood. What a mess. We were both off to bed, a little later than usual that night, but not too bad. The place was a mess. We knew it, and we weren't happy about it. But otherwise, I'd healed up from my burns. Marjot hadn't taken any, so we were feeling pretty good. Debating on building some new shelves if we could get some material around. I was tossing horseshoes, thinking about cleaning up the disaster over here. Tell you, that blood sure does fly. I grabbed the Molotovs and decided I was going to get out there and burn all those bodies that were sitting there. There was a mad rat coming for me while I was doing it. I tried to start him on fire, but it didn't work too well. And he ended up getting a hold of me. I bashed him with the glass bottle that was a Molotov, and the little bastard died. Of course, though. He got me. And there were still all those bodies to burn, so I couldn't relax yet. Just heaps of them. We were going to have to make something a little more fanciful around here for taking all these bodies into. At least we had some solution so we didn't have to look at them forever. And after that, I went back to get my rifle. Our animals are starving. Something's going to have to give there. For the minute, we just freed them. Hopefully they can find their own stuff. And certainly the buffalo can. These dogs, though, they're a little too picky. I had my rifle. Marjot needed tending. The stupid acid blood everywhere. The fire I started was spreading pretty good. But it was raining, of course. So it wasn't that big of a worry. Fortunately, the rain cleans up the acid blood. So that's one of the best things about it. As far as I'm concerned. More ship chunks fell out of the sky nearby. Once again, we'd have to make it a point to nab those when we can. And our heaters are breaking down. Our rooms are a complete disaster. We're both feeling a little bit of pressure here. So much to do. We had all these repairs to make. Some cargo pods came down nearby. which is good. Be more slag. It was olives. Personally, I hate olives, but Marjot claims she loves them. So we'll bring them in and use them regardless. Beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. We were off to bed, 11 o'clock. One of our guns broken down. That was going to be top priority to get that thing fixed. And I was building traps. Decided to take a break and use the telescope despite the rain. After that, I was going to do some cleaning. This place was such a nightmare. If we had the material, we'd floor over this whole area, but we really didn't. So we cleaned, built traps, repaired walls, hauled in olives, steel, trying to get ourselves ready, geared up. And eventually I got back to making flat gear. Marjot got back to slagging. Somebody showed up with some stuff to trade ship. They didn't have a lot. We didn't have anything to interact with in that regard. And we still needed to build traps. We were working towards that goal. Marjot was tossing horseshoes. I was making some clothes. I'd made all the flat gear we could use. Decided to make some parkas. Something we could sell. While we were having a good time in the bed that night, we had an explosion. Now one of our power conduits had went and damaged our comms console and started our meals on fire, which we got all repaired up in the morning. But holy cow, had I not been here once again, well, we're going to have to do some planning how to deal with fires when I'm not around here. That or I can send Marjot on the road. I was playing horseshoes. She was doing some smelting. All of a sudden a cold snap started. So I decided we better harvest what we can of the food and the cotton before it goes bad. Been waiting long enough on it for the flat gear, so maybe I make some more of that. She was smelting up steel, so we were able to keep on building up our traps. And once again, we were off to bed at 10 o'clock. Nothing to complain about except the fact that the plants are dying due to the cold. I tried, but traps seem far more important. Security versus dealing with these plants that are dying in droves. And when I got up, I hauled in the material I'd left sitting out in the garden. There was still a couple plants I could nab, but it wasn't going to be a lot. So I took what I could. Somebody called us saying they were being chased about that time, and we decided to pass. I was going to keep working on parkas, seeing as I need to get my crafting skills together a little more than they are. Marjot kept working on smelting and with the animals. Turns out those animals love olives. Who would have thought a muffalo and an olive go together? Regardless, we did some cleaning. She did smelting. I worked on making coats. One of our dogs was down and out because he was so hungry. At some point, we're going to have to get rid of those things. We had managed to sell one of them, but they didn't want all three. I decided we needed some meat, so I grabbed my trusty rifle, ran on out to kill some nearby alpaca. Seemed like the safest bet, since they're relatively peaceful compared to some of the critters around here. So I was out there shooting them up. Took down 3 of them. And then we got them hauled in. Gonna have to make a bunch of meals before too long. So we were ready for it. I was off to bed. Feeling pretty good, except for the fact that I hadn't made any progress figuring out those bionics. Marjot joined me as well. And another night was passing. The animals, dogs anyway, half starving. We were gonna have to re-inform these animals where they were allowed to go as well. But for now, we didn't have a lot to complain about. The traps were all rebuilt and the guns were running, so at least we felt secure for the night.